metacognition is meta means beyond. It's the highest level of anything. There's nothing beyond it, in other words. And cognition is thinking. So metacognition is the highest level of thinking. It's the brain thinking about itself. It doesn't need another brain out here to point out what is happening inside the brain. The brain goes, it's awareness and self-control, self-awareness, it's monitoring, it shows up when we are doing any self-reflection. It shows up when we do any self-correction. It shows up when we set goals. It shows up when we follow through on a plan. It shows up on our impulse control. It shows up when I make a choice to do something instead of something else. So it's basically our own built-in coaching and monitoring and self-awareness system. And it is the part of the brain that likes to know why it's doing what it's doing. And when we know that, we also learn really fast. It is the reason why I believe right brain thinking is important. Because if we understand that we have a framework of two sides of the brain with their distinct skills, I can then exploit that knowledge for my benefit as a human being in the world. I can then use my knowledge of there's these skills on the left and they tend to be weaker for me, so I'm going to pay more attention to doing things carefully that is detail focused, because I'm not great at the details and the tiny conceptual details. I'm great at the visual details. The right hemisphere sees visual detail in really beautiful ways, but conceptual detail is something I miss all the time. Dates, names, tiny changes on the invoice, for example, I will miss those. But I will see beautiful tiny details. Individual feathers of a bird in a painting, for example, is something that a right hemisphere artist might draw. My son, who's very right hemisphere dominant, he's very balanced, but he leads right, draws all the individual scales on the dragon when he was a child. In the context of a kingdom, a left hemisphere child is going to draw just the dragon, no background, no context. Because again, the left hemisphere is all about things in isolation, separate, decontextualized. The right hemisphere is all about the big picture, the overview, anything in context. So metacognition is context. It allows our brain to have this bigger understanding from which to be in the world.